Stevens told me about the presentation. We kind of talked about how do we want to split it up. And everyone knows that Judge Stevens is a great presenter and will have everybody laughing at the great stories. So we decided that he would handle everything funny, and then I would handle all the professional parts. So I'll be the professional part of the program to kind of cover, like if we're at a CLE, this is where you get your credit for learning about what Judge Lawrence did, and then with Judge Stevens, you get to laugh and enjoy the rest of the time. But to really understand a judge can be difficult if you don't know that person, because when you come into the courtroom, you see them up on the bench, and they normally look very stern, and they don't show a lot of emotion, and you're there to get rulings. You're there for them to decide a case, so you don't really get to learn a lot about what the character of that person is or what makes them who they are. Some of us are fortunate that we do get to learn who those folks are, but Judge Lawrence is a person that a lot of us got to learn through what he actually did through his professional accomplishments. So I wanted to cover three areas here today. I want to talk a little bit about his background. I wanted to talk a little bit about what he professionally accomplished. And then finally, I wanted to just briefly touch on what his memory or his legacy will be here in Athens, Clarke County, and in the greater state of Georgia and United States. So I wanted to start with, and I know his family is aware of this, those of us that are close to him, but he was a man of deep faith. He was really convicted in his faith, and he had a true servant heart. And he really had a deep love for others. And he was a trailblazer, so he used his love for others to decide that he wanted to blaze a new trail and improve things. I remember when talking here to Judge Lawrence that his first job, one of his first jobs he actually had in high school. He was the bus driver for high school. So back then, high school kids could actually drive the bus. He took the bus home. He would drive around on the way to school and pick people up. So that tells me how much he was trusted. Judge Stevens is going to really talk about his athletic accomplishments and being at the University of Georgia and some of his professional endeavors. But after he finished in the NFL, he decided that he wanted to come back and serve people. And so he came back to the University of Georgia and started a master's degree in teaching. And while he was at the University of Georgia, he started working for the University of Georgia Police Department. And he progressed very quickly and became a detective at the University of Georgia Police Department. And in 1974, Clarke County decided that they wanted to create a county police department. So they had a sheriff's department. Athens, the city of Athens had a police department, but the county didn't have a police department. And they were looking for the right person to head that. And so they went and they approached Judge Lawrence back in 1974 to become the first police chief of the Clarke County Police Department. And he was willing to leave his job at UGA and do that. So he served as our first police chief for the county police. While he was doing that, I think he realized that he had a true love for the law. And he decided that he was going to go to law school while he was working full time. So he began to attend law school at I think it was called Atlanta Law School, then it's the Woodrow Wilson College of Law. And he was working full time during the day. I think he was working for Mr. Gordon here. He was an investigator in your office. Is that correct, Mr. Gordon? And then he was going to law school at night. And so he worked full time to get his law degree. And then when he finished law school, he came and began to work for Ken Stooley in the solicitor's office. So he had a great background of actually being out there serving in the community. And in 1986, Governor Joe Frank Harris appointed him to be a state court judge. After 14 years, and after all the years that he was in law enforcement officer serving on the DWI task force, he decided he wanted to make a real change in the community. He was tired of seeing the same people come before him with substance use issues, continuing to get into trouble because of alcohol or drugs, and there to be no solution but put them in jail. And so back in 2000, he created what we now know as the DUI court. There were no DUI courts in the state of Georgia. There were just a few DUI courts nationally, so there was no model. You could go visit another court. I think he went out to New York and Michigan and went out to New Mexico and saw how some other courts operated. He visited some drug courts in the state of Georgia. And he and Ralph Powell and a few other people sat at the grit and on a napkin decided how to kind of create the first DUI court in the state of Georgia. And now we know that this model works. And I was talking with the director for the National Center for DWI Courts yesterday, and he said to me, this is Jim Ebersbacher, he said, the insight that Judge Lawrence had into shifting the drug court model to impaired drivers and having the fortitude and courage to withstand the criticism in doing so is tremendous and cannot be understated. Because at that point, the idea was if you get another DUI, you should just go to jail a lot longer. And if you get another DUI, you should go to jail even longer than that. And there was no looking at what was the problem of causing people to come back. And so it took a lot of courage to create a system where instead of putting in jail, you put in intense supervision and put intense treatment to try to really change lives. So by the early 2000s, we all knew that Judge Lawrence was blazing a trail. And in fact, as I was going back through kind of some of my records of Judge Lawrence, he celebrated his 20th year on the bench in 2005. And as judges, we decided we were going to write him letters and kind of create a scrapbook. I don't know if you remember, I think you might have been the one that kind of suggested that. And I found the letter that I wrote to him back in November of 2005. And so I just wanted to say this was what we looked at, how we looked at Judge Lawrence back in 2005. I wrote, "Dear Judge Lawrence, it is a pleasure and an honor to congratulate you on your 20th year on the bench. Your personal contributions to the legal system, both locally and nationally, are impossible to measure. The dedication you have shown to the citizens of this county is truly inspiring. As an attorney, I always enjoyed my experiences in the state court because I knew no matter what the issue, my client and I would be treated fairly with the proper amount of respect, and I knew that you would give each issue and every person the necessary attention to make a fair and just decision. And to me, the highest compliment I can give you now is that you are a judge who will stand independently and follow the rule of law, ignoring competing outside interests, and deliver justice tempered with mercy to those who appear in front of you, regardless of demographic, personal status, or other factor. And of course, I have to mention the lives and families that you have saved through your creation and devotion to the DUI court." So in 2005, when we wrote these letters to Judge Lawrence, I'd already realized that it was impossible to really measure what he had done locally and nationally. But I can tell you in 2005, Judge Lawrence was nowhere near being done with what he was going to contribute to the justice system here in Athens-Clarke County. It was in 2005 he brought in Gary Bowen through a grant as our first in-house probation officer in Athens-Clarke County. Through that time, we had a contract with private probation companies who might have had a profit motive when they were supervising probation. And Judge Lawrence did not like that model, so he went out and obtained a grant and brought Gary Bowen in-house for the DUI drug court. And using Gary as the model for in-house probation, today we now have in-house probation. We have 17 sworn law enforcement officers that supervise over 3,000 people in this county. I mean, can you believe that he started that with one person? We have 17 officers, several of which that are here. After that, he didn't like the way that drug testing was done. We used to collect samples, we would send them off to a lab in California, they would get the samples a few days later, then they would send us back results. We might get results a week, 10 days later. He became the first court in the state of Georgia to have an in-house drug lab. And I remember how excited he was when he got that first little V-twin Siemens drug tester that was on a counter. And he could run a sample and have a result within an hour. So instead of waiting 10 days to know if a person was struggling with alcohol, you would know within an hour. Today, from him getting that first little countertop drug testing, we have a drug lab that has over 4 staff that run over 1,600 tests a month. They run over 20,000 tests a year for all of the county probation. In 2008, he took the DUI court that he had created and he applied to become a National Academy Court. And this was, back then you didn't have a lot of ways to start DUI courts. There wasn't a model, so they decided they wanted to create a model. And so in 2008, he applied to be a training court, and he was selected as one of 4 national training courts for DUI courts. And there was a lot of courts out there that applied, but his court was found to be one of the top 4 in the country, and it has stayed there since that selection. It has been selected every 3 years since 2008. So in 2011, 14, 17, and 2020, it's remained a training court. And since then, we've had over 75 teams from all across the United States come to Athens, Georgia to learn the model and to be trained on the model. In addition, we have people all throughout the year based upon what he has done that come and learn by attending our court sessions and seeing what we do. So he has spread what he did, not only across the state of Georgia, where there is over 23 courts now, but now there's over 750 DWI courts that follow in the same model that he started in 2000. This was all after I wrote that letter in 2005. I just want to mention a couple more things that he was recognized on. I know a lot of us here may know this who knew him, but locally he got one of the highest honors you can in the justice system. In 2012, the Athens Justice Project named him the Milner Ball, or gave him the Milner Ball Social Justice Award, recognizing his work in the social justice arena. In the state of Georgia in 2011, the state court judges named their highest award that had been named after Judge Doremus. They named it the Ogden Doremus Kent Lawrence Award. They felt they were so moved by his service to the state court that they named their highest award, and that award is given to a state court judge each year that has achieved the highest level of respect from his or her peers as being a judge, recognized for their judicial ethics and professionalism on the bench and their involvement in the community. And lastly, nationally, in 2012, he received the National Center for DWI Courts Leadership Award, which is the highest national award that can be provided to a DWI court judge. And it was given to him for his tireless efforts that saved countless lives and made the community a safer place. And it was given to him because he contributed to the advancement of the nation's DWI court effort and demonstrated significant personal leadership and exemplary performance at the local, regional, state, and national level. So I know we can all recognize his accomplishments. In the courthouse, we have a beautiful portrait of many of you have seen it in the state courtroom. I brought this great rendition of it here, printed out. It's a beautiful portrait if you're ever in the state court courtroom of him. And also on the fourth floor, there is a plaque memorializing his contributions to the DWI court. And so those will not only remain with us in the courthouse, but at our new courthouse, both his portrait and the plaque will be there. But that's not how he should be remembered, and that's not his legacy. His legacy, as I started out with, is because he was a man of great faith. He focused on serving others. And through his commitment to service, he was not an average person. He was not an average lawyer. He was not an average judge. He did not accept the status quo when the status quo was not acceptable. And he did not tolerate repeating something when what was being repeated was not tolerable. He didn't wait for innovation. He facilitated innovation. And he didn't wait to be told to change. He was a change agent. And he didn't follow the paths of others, especially in the criminal justice system. He blazed a trail that we now follow based on his efforts. And so I know I covered a lot of his accomplishments and his honors, but really the truest accomplishments are illustrated by the people who entered the programs that he developed and he championed, the people who found a successful path to recovery, the people who repaired and rebuilt relationships with their family, the people who regained custody of children, regained employment, regained sobriety, regained their driving privileges, and were able to regain a sense of self-worth, respect, and dignity and hope for the future. And that's how his legacy will be remembered. His accomplishments are seen that our community is a better and safer place due to all of his efforts. So in closing, he has an amazing background, amazing accomplishments, and I appreciate his family being here, but I want them to know that he truly will be remembered for the lives that he's improved and the lives that he has saved. His legacy will be the improvements that he has brought to the justice system to better those in our community. And he showed a true love for neighbor and a fellow citizen by seeking the best for everyone, even when they made a mistake. So we're very glad and very blessed to have Judge Lawrence. So thank you.